London's $20 billion underground revolution, the Elizabeth Line story. Our top pick, London's $20 billion underground revolution, the Elizabeth Line story. It pairs a striking cost figure with the word revolution for curiosity and a clear subject, perfect for search and clicks. This is the Elizabeth Line, a $20 billion attempt to rewire London from below. Years late, billions over budget, built with machines the size of cathedrals. 20 billion town, 2.5 years late, and drilled beneath one of the busiest cities on earth. How did London build a railway this massive? And why did it nearly break the system trying to open it? $20 billion, years of delays, new tunnels cut beneath London. One of Europe's most complex rail projects, built where the ground was already full. This is Crossrail, open to the public as the Elizabeth Line, a new east-west railway under London that links outer suburbs, Heathrow, Canary Wharf and the West End into a single high-capacity spine. By stitching together 42 kilometres of new tunnels with existing surface lines, it changed how London moves, shifted millions of passenger journeys, and redrew the mental map of the city. Trains are longer, faster, and stations are built for the crowds London could never quite fit before. London's population kept rising. The Tube moved record numbers. But the Central, Jubilee and Victoria lines were straining. Platforms overflowing, dwell times stretching, small delays rippling into system-wide pain. Crossing the city east to west was slow and indirect. Interchanges stacked on interchanges, a 19th century network doing 21st century work. Victorian infrastructure is ingenious, but it is finite. You can modernize signalling and buy newer trains, but tunnel diameters, platform sizes and choke points do not magically expand. Ideas for an east-west express line go back decades. Studies in the 1970s, proposals in the 1990s. Finally, political and financial momentum aligned in the 2000s to attempt the unthinkable. The goal was simple and brutal. Remove pressure from the busiest corridors, speed trips across the capital and future-proof growth without breaking the system. But solving London's transport problem meant doing something almost impossible. Digging a new railway through the heart of a city that was already full underground. Enter the tunnel boring machines, steel cylinders longer than a football pitch, pushing forward ring by ring, carving twin tunnels that had to thread between existing tube lines, sewers, foundations, utilities, and history itself. The ground beneath London is a dense library of infrastructure. Engineers navigated clearances measured in centimetres, sometimes tunnelling within whispering distance of active platforms and fragile structures. To avoid damage above, they monitored every building, every movement, every fraction of a millimetre. Compensation grouting stood ready to stabilise the ground before tiny shifts became big problems. Each advance set concrete segments into a continuous tube, waterproof, precise, and strong enough to carry the loads of a modern city rumbling only metres above. Millions of tons of spoil had to go somewhere. Logistics stretched across railheads, lorry convoys and barges on the Thames, moving earth as if it were a second river flowing out of London. Work sites became clockwork theatres, shafts sinking, cross passages forming, utilities diverted, and rails threaded in, all while the city kept living its normal day above. London was not being rebuilt from above. It was being carefully rewired from below. Stations became underground cathedrals. At Tottenham Court Road, vast halls and dramatic escalators opened space where there used to be a crush, a hidden megastructure channeling crowds with calm geometry. Farringdon is a junction of futures, designed for huge passenger flows, linking north-south Thames Link with the Elizabeth Line, ready to absorb growth with generous platforms and clear wayfinding. At Canary Wharf, a station inside a sculpted box, retail above, trains below, and a timber canopy that turns transport into architecture. Bond Street and Paddington stretch long and deliberate, with modern ticket halls, step-free access and platform screen doors guiding movement like stagecraft. These are not just stops, they are machines for handling cities. Liverpool Street balances heritage and volume, absorbing tidal passenger flows while keeping the network legible and humane. Everything here is about throughput and accessibility. Wider passages, more lifts, less friction, built to carry tomorrow's London without repeating yesterday's bottlenecks. Then came the delays. The original opening target slipped. Costs rose, public patience thinned. The hardest problems hid in the seams, signalling integration between legacy and new systems, software that had to talk flawlessly across different rail environments, and testing that revealed edge case after edge case. Management pressure met political scrutiny. Each missed milestone amplified risk. Fixes took time, and time amplified cost. Then COVID disrupted schedules, supply chains and staffing, turning a difficult commissioning into a moving target. Megaprojects often fail on time and budget, even when the engineering is excellent, because complexity hides where systems meet and people underestimate integration. And this is where the story changes, because the hardest part was no longer digging the tunnels. It was making the entire system work as one. In May 2022, the Elizabeth Line opened. Passengers stepped into stations that felt new, fast and unmistakably London. Journeys collapsed. Heathrow to central London sped up. East to west became a straight line. Canary Wharf connected to the West End in minutes that used to take far longer. Around the stations, new investment followed. Offices, homes and retail clustered where access improved. The quiet, compounding effect of a reliable, frequent, high-capacity service. For future mega-projects, HS2, Crossrail 2 and systems worldwide, the lesson is blunt. Plan for integration risk, protect testing time, and be honest about the price of complexity. In the end, capacity is destiny. Build it well, and a city can keep growing without choking itself. The Elizabeth Line proves that mega-projects are never just about concrete, steel and tunnels. They're about whether a city can keep growing without collapsing under its own success. If you want more documentaries on the mega-projects reshaping our cities, subscribe to Megaproject Insider. This is the story of a 20 billion gamble, delayed 2.5 years, that drilled twin tunnels beneath one of the world's busiest cities. What began as an engineering dream became one of Europe's most complex and controversial transport projects. London was bursting at the seams. Packed platforms, central lines running flat out. The Central, Jubilee and Victoria lines strained as the city grew. Victorian tunnels were never built for this scale of demand. Tunnel boring machines chewed through clay and chalk. Precast rings were lowered, bolted and sealed, while millions of tons of spoil headed downstream. London was not being rebuilt from above. It was being carefully rewired from below. The stations were conceived as hidden megastructures: Tottenham Court Road, Farringdon, Canary Wharf, Bond Street, Paddington, Liverpool Street, built like underground cathedrals to move masses of people with dignity and speed. But the project's heart was software. Signalling systems and integration testing became the crucible. Months of simulation, error after error, proved that hardware was easy compared to making the whole system sing together. When the Elizabeth line finally opened in May 2022, trains glided into gleaming platforms and journey times fell. For a city that had long grown faster than its transport, capacity became literally destiny. $20 billion, 2.5 years late, and drilled beneath one of the busiest cities on Earth. This is how London built the Elizabeth line, and why making it work was the hardest part. London's Elizabeth line, known as Crossrail during construction, is one of Europe's most complex underground rail projects. This cinematic, faceless megaproject documentary reveals why London needed a new east-west railway, how engineers threaded twin tunnels through a city already packed with tube lines, sewers, utilities, and historic foundations, and why the biggest risks emerged during signalling integration and software testing. We explore the underground cathedrals at Tottenham Court Road, Farringdon, Canary Wharf, Bond Street, Paddington and Liverpool Street, stations designed for massive passenger flows, accessibility and future capacity. See how millions of tons of excavated spoil moved by rail, lorry and barge, how clearances measured in centimetres protected buildings above, and how COVID compounded already difficult commissioning. Finally, we measure the line's impact after opening in May 2022. Faster journey times across London, stronger links to Heathrow and Canary Wharf, and economic uplift around stations. For future projects like HS2, Crossrail 2 and global metros, the Elizabeth line offers one essential lesson: plan for integration risk as carefully as you plan the tunnels. The tunnels were ready, the trains were not. Engineering built the tunnels. Software had to bind them to the railway. The Elizabeth line's biggest hurdle was not concrete, it was integration. Signals from different systems had to agree on speed, spacing and safety. A single miscommunication could stop a train. Testing found edge cases that only appear at scale. Add COVID delays and a great railway became a great commissioning challenge. London was full underground. Twin tunnels had to weave past tube lines, sewers and foundations with clearances measured in centimetres. Laser monitoring watched buildings for millimetre movement. Compensation grouting stood ready to stabilise the ground. Meanwhile, millions of tons of spoil left by rail, lorry and barge, a hidden logistics network beneath the city you see. Stations became mega structures: Tottenham Court Road, Farringdon, Canary Wharf, Bond Street, Paddington, Liverpool Street, built as machines for people. Wider passages, platform screen doors, and step-free access move crowds with choreography. These spaces feel cinematic because they are designed for flow, not just trains. Capacity is destiny. After May 2022, journey times fell and central bottlenecks eased. Heathrow, Canary Wharf, and the West End linked in a single spine. Around stations, investment followed. Big price tag, bigger city-shaping impact. Doors opened, everything felt new. On opening day, passengers discovered a railway that felt both familiar and futuristic. Clean lines, fast trains, and a map that finally made sense, east to west. The Elizabeth Line reset expectations for how London should move.